Welcome to the Mobil Trend channel. Subscribe now.
Good morning.
Hi, sir.
Very well. That's quite a beast.
Absolutely. This is pretty much the funnest car I've ever driven.
And can you tell me how you drifted? Oh, well, no, drift is a bit of a... Drift is not necessarily the right word for this, is it?
I mean, to be specific about it, it would be an all-wheel drive drift. Because the term drift has sort of been adopted by the actual drift competition
Which is
community
only
nowadays,
rear drive.
which is basically rear-wheel drive. But really, you know, the actual art of really oversteering for function comes from rally, say starting back in the 60s. You know, over the years, you know, sliding a car really became an art form in stage rally. And then the all-wheel drive cars came along in the 80s, and then they really needed a handbrake, you know, to initiate and get those very powerful cars to slide around. And that's really what inspired me to do the things that I do. It really all comes from, you know, stage rally all the way back from the 60s, but a big influence in the Group B days. And then, of course, like the Colin McRae days and Tommy Mäkinen days in the 90s. When I started in the mid-2000s, I really wanted to do what those guys were doing. But, you know, nowadays, when you're sliding a stage rally car, you're going slower. So the idea is always to try and keep the car as straight as possible, but that takes some of the fun away. and that's why I've been doing the Gymkhana stuff really on the side of everything else that I do, and why we do the videos is because then I get to play with the car and really slide it around as much as I want, as much as I can.
This is a bigger car than you've used before, longer car than you've used before. The principles are the same, are they, presumably, for getting it sliding and keeping it dry?
Yeah, basically this car, big V8, but the drivetrain is based off what I use for stage rally and rallycross. Okay. So it's an all-wheel drive system by Sadev with a center diff, a rear diff, and a front diff. And one of the reasons why this engine sits so far back in this car is that the drivetrain actually has to go around the engine.
Oh, really?
And the front diff sits in front of the engine.
So the weight distribution, is that fairly even? Is it fairly even?
Yeah, it's a little bit more in the front, but not much.
And a 50-50 power split?
Yes.
And it's got a bar, and you still use that quite a lot.
Yes. This car itself is actually quite soft in its setup. When I started making the Gymkhana videos, I wanted the car to drive on tarmac the way that it drives on gravel, because gravel stage rally is where I come from. So, you know, when you're driving down a stage and you stomp on the brake to get into a turn, you know, the car automatically goes into an oversteer situation, and then you control it through the turn because of the weight transfer and the soft suspension. But I do still use the handbrake to get the car, you know, very precisely in different situations, because, you know, just braking and relying on the suspension and weight transfer isn't as accurate every time.
How aware are you of the processes that you have to do? How much do you have to think about it, or how much can you just crack on with it?
Coming from stage rally and then all the experience that I have in miles and miles and miles of being out on stages, a lot of it is very second nature, and it's got to be something that comes at a very subconscious level of what you need to do. You can't think, okay, I need to brake here. Yeah. And really over time, being in all sorts of different situations have really taught me to do all sorts of different things that come very naturally. That's where maybe I don't explain things as good as I should. I'm not a teacher. I'm not an instructor. I think I could probably do a better job showing you.
Should we do that? just off the scale. That is how you do it. That is how you do it. I've never sat alongside anybody so smooth and calm when a car is completely sideways. You sit alongside some decent drivers in this game, but never anybody as good as that. That is just, oh, that's just sensational. It's just off the scale.